早晨。
Members, good morning. It's really our appointed time and we formed a quorum. May I call to order meeting of the subcommittee to study the implementation of free kindergarten education. The first item on the agenda is confirmation of our minutes for the meeting dated the 17th of January 2015. So far, the Secretary has not received any proposal for amendments. If members have no objection, can we confirm the minutes for our last meeting, please? Okay, second item on the agenda, premises-related issues. Please invite the administration to join us now, and please refer to paper CB 4627/1415(01).
Sorry. 係，若然副局長準備。
Undersecretary, when you are ready, and after that, I will open the floor to members for questions. Mr. Yuan. Madam Chair, I understand that the first item on the agenda is premises-related issues, and the second item is issues related to manpower requirements, salary, and teacher professionalism. We have provided two papers covering the preliminary views of the subcommittee. The committee is of the view that in the long term, the government should consider providing premises, and some rental subsidy should be provided to qualified QG in rented premises. However, there should be eligibility criteria, and extra expenses, rental expenses on top of the rental subsidy provided by the government will have to be borne by the parents in the form of tuition fees. As regards how to provide further support to KGs in terms of premises, we will take on board views to be provided by the consultant. So perhaps I will leave issues related to teacher professionalism later. Yes. Mr. Wong Kok Heng, Chuang Kok Chu, Ma Fong Kwok, and Kenneth Chen would like to ask questions. For better time management, I suggest that each have 5 minutes, and if time permits, I will allow another round of questions. Ms. Wong Kok Heng. Madam Chair, school premises is the hardware of KG, and it is a very basic prerequisite of education, whether you talk about primary, secondary, or tertiary education. In the long term, the administration should consider providing premises for KGs. This is for the long term, of course. And to address this legacy, we, of course, have to tackle the problem gradually, step by step. But the administration must help KGs to resolve the problem related to accommodation and facilities of KGs. We have hoped for a long time that there can be free KG education for all. There are different types of KGs in Hong Kong with different circumstances. Has the administration done a survey on the number of KGs operating in self-owned premises? How many of them are sharing their premises with primary sections? And the number of KGs that are none of the above, and that is they are in rented private premises or in shopping malls. because for KGs, when their tenancies are due, they have to face very sharp rent increases, and some of them have no choice but to close down because they cannot cope with the rent. And as said in the paper, extra rental expenses not covered by government subsidy will have to be recovered from parents in the form of tuition fees. So I'd like to ask the administration whether any survey has been done on the issues I just mentioned, and also proposed solutions. Yes, Mr. Wong is very correct. Rental is the sticky point when it comes to the provision of free KG education, because after many years of development, many KGs are in private, rented, or owned properties. Some are in public rental housing estates, and rent is relatively cheaper. Some are in private premises, and therefore the rent fluctuates a lot. So when it comes to the provision of free KG education, one of the biggest problem is the problem of rent. Because a rental is affected by the location as well as the size. Now, these two factors are beyond the control of the government. It is entirely dependent on the market and also the operator concerned. So how can the government commit to fully cover the rental? And this is the main concern of the committee as well. So for a rental that is too expensive, then the parents will have to bear part of the rental cost in the form of tuition fees. In our analysis, about half of the non-profit making KGs on our rent reimbursement mechanism, about 9% of them are in government premises such as PRH estates, and these premises are cheaper in rent. For those who are not in our subsidy reimbursement scheme, for non-profit making KGs, about half of them, or in fact 25 to 26% of them, they are in their own premises, paying nominal rents at a few dollars or a few $1,000s. About 22% of these KGs are paying really a market rate. I'm afraid your time is up. Please follow up later. Okay. But this is a very short question. Please, after the meeting, because I'm sorry, many members are waiting in the queue. Mr. Chong Kwok Chu, since you are going to implement 15 years of free education, if there is no restriction at all, you can't to apply the same policy. Some KGs are in rented private premises, and you can't expect the landlords to cut the rent. And the problem is, what is the level of subsidy? I don't think you can tell us today. You can't tell us how the line will be drawn. Yes, the committee is still discussing the level of subsidy, rental subsidy. Well, this is one of our major concerns, but I don't think we can deal with it today. Now, we know that about 40% of MP MKGs are in PRH housing estates, PRH estates. Most of them were subsidized by the SWD in the past. Is that right? When they were subsidized by the SWD, what was the space allocation per student? Is any different from those KGs subsidized by your rent reimbursement scheme? Of course, if under the new arrangement you're more generous, of course it is good. But for old established KGs, they cannot increase the space. So how are you going to deal with this? My colleagues can supplement after I have commented. In the past, some childcare centers were supervised by the SWD, but we have merged or rationalized the whole system. For those aged between 3 and 6, or KGs for those between 3 and 6, they operate under the same rules and regulations. So when we set teacher and student ratio and also the standard facilities and physical accommodation, well, all these will apply to all KGs. Of course, we will do an survey of the actual situation. We cannot, for instance, ask all QGs to provide an outdoor play area. So I won't be able to tell you the impact now, but we will certainly take into account the implications, and the requirements or regulations for all KGs will be the same. Some premises may not have been renovated for a long time. Will you provide a lump sum grant for such KGs for renovation when the new system is put in place? And we know that some school premises may be receiving both subsidies from both the SWD and the ED for different age groups. How can you rationalize the system to ensure that the KG concerned can fulfill with requirements of both departments? Now, for KGs operating in PRH estates, if they need major renovation, of course the expenses will be borne by the government. If the KG is in private premises and there is a major maintenance exercise in the building, then the KG should bear the expenses itself. But for other types of KGs, for those, for instance, operated by churches, we will reconsider the situation. But for KGs operating in private premises at a private rate, we will not subsidize the maintenance. And my colleague will supplement the point about KGs are receiving subsidies from both SWD and KGs. For details, please refer to para 6. The long holiday KGs can apply for funds under the lotteries fund, while the SWD to meet the project expenses.
Mr. Malcolm Kwok, thank you, Madam Chair. In paragraph 4A, it said there will be cut-off points. How are these cut-off points set? And what is the actual amount of subsidy? How long would they be reviewed? And how many MPG KGs get no subsidy because they are below or they cannot meet the cut-off point eligibility, and how much has lost their subsidy because they have they have gone beyond the threshold. Assistant Secretary, on the rent reimbursement mechanism, well, there are certain criteria, eligibility criteria. The fee levels must be below a cut-off point to be determined by the EDB. We are talking about the cut-off point or the ceiling applicable to the pre-primary education voucher scheme. And also the average rent must not be over the cut-off point. We have different districts for different KGs, and we look at the rents that they have paid, and we come up with an average for an KG to be eligible for the rent reimbursement. Their rent must not be higher than the cut-off point. If they are paying rent higher than the cut-off point, they are not eligible. But what if those who are in operation and suddenly the rent goes up? Would they be disqualified as a result? Yes, that's the case. How would they survive then? Or they can increase school fees. They collect school fees from the students. In public rental housing estates, there are vacant premises suitable for KGs. And the premises will be led by the HD and not by the Education Bureau. May I know the vacancy rate that we have now? Under the housing department, there are premises reserved for kindergartens, and if the premises are left vacant, they would ask the EDB to see if there's a need to ask for another operator of a KG to come in. The EDB would look at local demand. If there's a demand, we'll ask them to invite another operator. And if there's no local demand, we'll ask the HA to deal with it through other means. So that will no longer be used as a KG. That's up to the housing department. Dr. Kenneth Chan. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the issues we are dealing today are complicated. In the past, the government left these issues to the private market. We have got the Hong Kong planning standards and guidelines, and you have an estimate of the number of whole day or half day kindergartens based on population. And now the market is off balance. We know that there was a case, the kindergartens could not pay the new rent, top kids, and it had to close. And the government may build some properties, but the premises will not be led to KG directly by the government. And now they have a cut-off point based on the average rent charged. And so it's a cat and mouse situation, and you don't want to pay them higher than what is required in the market. So there are certain problems here. First, we should revise the Hong Kong planning standard guidelines. Well, it's not put in the in a footnote, as if you don't want us to see it. It said that under Hong Kong PSG, the standard of nursery classes and kindergartens should be 730 half-day and 250 full-day places for every 1,000 children in age group of 3 to under 6. You should review whether the standard is outdated. Did the committee review this and then look into the role played by the government, because we want to introduce 15 years of free education If you don't review this, you'll be adjusting the subsidy in accordance with the market movements, and then we are not going to see the 15 years of free education for a long, long time. From what I've heard, you pay them as much as you can in accordance with a new and improved mechanism, and what is not met under that mechanism will be paid for by the parents. So, Under Secretary, the government should look at the premises available for kindergarten operators. You should provide the premises. In the long term, you should provide the premises so that they won't be facing ups and downs in the market. But you don't have a roadmap, you don't have a timetable, you just ask people to wait. But that's not a solution. You should do the calculations. After the review of the Hong Kong Planning Standard Guidelines, you should provide free premises for the kindergarten operators. You should look at the costs, expenditures, overheads of kindergartens. Or you can calculate the kind of rent you have to pay according to market rent. Then we will have a rational basis to judge how we should proceed with 15 years of free education. You should not just subsidize some items but not others. You must review all these issues so that we are confident that we will ultimately get the 15 years of free education in place. In terms of planning, members may wish to refer to paragraph 11 of the paper. At the end of that paragraph, we state that the committee will review the planning standards for whole-day KG places with a view to increasing the provision. So they will look at the Hong Kong Planning Standard Guidelines, and that is for 1,000 children, 730 half-day places, 250 full-day places. They will look into the actual demand. But planning is one thing. We have to consider the market situation as well in the short term. We cannot provide all of a sudden a lot of premises from the government. If we look at the planning on the part of the government, and also the planning in smaller districts, that's the question whether we can do this in all the districts, even though we may have an overall government planning standard. But in the short term, we need to find ways to subsidize KGs so as to achieve the objective of providing 3 KG education. As the member puts it, even if I conduct a survey today and I know the market rent of all kindergartens now, I cannot rule out that there will be rent increases 6 months down the road. And then when the landlord knows that the government is going to provide subsidy, and they know that the parents may be able to afford some more, and then the question is we cannot prevent the landlord from increasing rent. In that case, you should provide the rent, the full rent. You're not going to. You're doing so little. You're not doing very much, even after the review. Deputy Chairman, actually we're talking about 2 major issues. One, rent, and the other is also important. Premises and the quality of education in kindergartens. Dr. Kenneth Chan is correct. What is the rent problem we are facing now? In the past, it's a laissez-faire approach. We left it to the market. Some kindergartens were using subsidies or using premises provided by the government, but many are relying on the market for premises. So when rental levels are so high in the private market, we have this difficult question before us. Therefore, the government must adopt a long-term view. There are some ideas set out in the paper. I just want to know what the ultimate objective might be. Is it that ultimately all kindergartens would be free from relying on private market provision of premises? But if that's the case, then our thinking may take a very different direction. So full-time KGs in terms of rent compared with half-day kindergartens, would it be different? Because if it's by sectional, let's say we have 100 pupils. For half-day kindergartens, it may be 200 pupils, half for the morning session, half for the afternoon session. Under your planning, would there be a difference between the rent subsidy provided to full-day vis-a-vis half-day kindergartens? I would leave my questions on quality to the next round. The committee is still considering the way forward for rent subsidy. For long whole day and whole day kindergartens, as far as we know, most of them are covered by the rent reimbursement mechanism. So in theory, they are paying no rent now. So I don't think at the end of the day they would come up. They would have to pay rent. I think we are much more confident about the case of long full day and full day kindergartens in terms of rent. What about the long-term goal? Are you going to set a long-term goal that ultimately the kindergartens will not be affected by market rent movements? Well, in the long run, as we set out in the paper, in the longer term, we would like the government to find ways to increase the provision of kindergartens. But realistically, we can well imagine that in some districts, especially in older districts where there are fewer new housing developments, so there may be operators who would like to run a kindergarten in such an old district. So we cannot say that in the long run there will be no one who would be required to rent in the private market. But we would like to increase the provision of premises. The ratio of kindergartens relying on premises in the private market would be on the decline in the long run. Well, if you still rely on the private market for premises, that means that premises from the public sector cannot cater for the needs of all kindergarten pupils, and therefore you have to rent. And if there's also a ceiling set, then you are not adopting the notion of free kindergarten education. And also, will the ceiling be abolished as we move along? At present, you can't cope, therefore you need to set a ceiling. But in the long term, I don't think we should have a ceiling at all. Let's say my child goes to a kindergarten, it's an entitlement, a right. In terms of the concept, we need a ceiling. If the premises are rented in the private market, and if there's no ceiling, then even if I may provide a lot of government premises, well, the operators will still want to rent in the private market because there's no ceiling on rent. So that may not be feasible. So we will need a ceiling. We want to find a pragmatic way forward for the promotion of kindergarten education. Your proposals will be seriously considered. And also, secondly, in some cases, can we ask primary schools and kindergartens to share premises. If that's the case, we can further increase the number of kindergarten places.
Mr. Chan Chi-chun, in fact, this government has never believed in rent subsidy. As in the case of housing, we asked the administration whether rent subsidy can be provided, and the answer is landlords will increase rent as a result of rent subsidy from the government. So providing rent subsidy for KGs is already against the government's established policy or a last resort. So it's a must that there should be a ceiling, as mentioned by Mr. Yuan a number of times, because rent subsidies can never catch up with the market. As a result of rent subsidy from the government, landlords can substantially raise rents. And there is no way the SAR government can control the market. Now, according to the paper, the maximum rent or the reimbursed rent was $140,000 per month. So is that the ceiling? If not, what is the ceiling for a single KG? Because some KGs may not be able to operate anymore because of sharp rental increases. So I'd like to ask the administration whether you're aware of the problem faced by KGs. Now, if KGs are not in your scheme, do you require them to declare the rent to you? I am not saying that you should influence rent, but you need to know the market situation so that KGs will not be forced to close as a result of sharp rental increases. Of course, you may not be able to stop that, but do you have an idea the number of KGs facing such a possible scenario so that you can take some precautionary measures? For instance, parents may want to know the rent of the KG her kid is studying, so that she may choose not to enroll in this KG in the next school year. Para 9 says that the prevailing requirement of having proven demand on the district should be relaxed. It said that the current requirement is too strict, and therefore you believe there is room to relax it. And the committee is also thinking of introducing more tiers of rental subsidy according to different fill-up rates. So can you give us the details, please? Undersecretary. Because Mr. Chen has raised a number of questions, I'll try my best. If I've missed any, Mr. Chen, please remind me. I think the maximum reimbursed rent was higher than the one quoted in this paper. Let me check and provide the answer later, but I think the level was much higher than the one quoted here. The proposal to provide more tiers of rental subsidy. Well, under the rent reimbursement scheme, there are only two levels, or three levels, 0 or 50% or 100%. We want to introduce more tiers. So in between 0 and 50% and 100%, we are thinking of more tiers in between. Because the percentage of reimbursement or subsidy is related to the fill-up rate. For instance, if the premises are very spacious and yet the student enrollment is limited, there is no reason why I should fully subsidize your rent. So Once the fill-up rate is up to half, we will pay full rental, we will fully reimburse the rent. Perhaps the DS can supplement. Now, if the fill-up rate is 50% or more, then full reimbursement. If it is less than 50%, then 50% reimbursement. That's the current situation. Mrs. Regina Ip. Thank you. In principle, I'm against rent reimbursement or subsidy, although I understand the operational difficulties. Because in economics, or rather because of pre-primary education voucher, many KGs have increased fees. Of course, in the short term, it may be a useful measure. As said by Para 3, there should be long-term planning. When there is a new PRH development or new private housing development, there should be a space reserved for KGs. Of course, in old districts, there will not be new PRH developments, but for new PRH developments, I believe you've got the demographic figures. For instance, Hong Kong Island is aging, and in NT there are more young couples. There may be more new births. So, do you have such planning statistics? And Para 8 said that some KGs received $3,100 per month and another $140,000 odd per month in rent subsidy reimbursement. What are the reasons? Is it because of the difference in size? And can the administration explain once again the difference in policies regarding non-profit making and profit-making KGs? It is because of a lack of supervision, or what? If a profit-making KG is very successful, then many parents are willing to pay the fees. In new PRH developments, we have reserved land for KGs. For instance, in Kai Tak, there is Kai Ting and Tak Mong housing estates. We have reserved two locations for KG. We have completed the allocation procedures, and we hope that the two KGs can start operation soon. When we develop new PRH estates, we will make a provision for KGs. What about private housing developments? Do you have any population projection? If you have such information, can we have them, please? Have it, please. Regarding the overall population projection, we can go back and check. But Para 3, we are saying that even for private development, we hope that the developer will reserve space for KG operation. And the question is whether the KG will be operated by a private contractor or by the administration. So you're only thinking about it. You haven't done it yet. Now, take Tin Shui Wai as an example. In the past, the area was reserved for a KG, but because it's a private premises, when the tenancy for the current KG expired, and other KG was willing to rent the premises at a higher rate. So the rent will be determined by market forces. But if you have more locations for KG when supply is more, then there is no way the developer can ask for higher rents. So it is a question of planning. So how many more can lower competition? But if we reserve too many sites for KGs, we don't know whether that is the best way in utilizing land resources. But the government has priorities even for cinemas. You're going to provide for cinema sites in your plannings. What is your attitude towards KG? Yes, KG is a priority, but what should be the right quantity? Whether it should be just make or suggested by you a little bit surplus. Para 8. Why for one KG it was 3,100 and the other 400,000? Because for the former is on government premises, the other on private premises. Then I think you are shortchanging us. How can you compare one on a government premises and the other on private premises? Dr. An Chang, yes, you have to define very clearly NPGKG and PMKG, because for a for an NPMKG you can reimburse its rent, but not for a PMKG, because there are many registered organizations calling themselves NPM. They may claim that they have very expensive teachers with very high qualifications, those from Cambridge with a standard Oxford accent, for instance. They may be NPM KGs, but also very high class or high-end KGs. So you intend to provide rental subsidy for such KGs, hoping to lessen the burden of parents. How can you ensure that fees will be lower because of your rental subsidy? Because the landlord may increase the rent after you have provided rental subsidy. Yes, that's why we've been saying that there must be a ceiling on the amount of subsidy to be provided, because there's always the possibility that landlords will increase rents together with our rental subsidy. As a result, parents cannot benefit. And for whether a KG is NPM or PM, it depends on whether it can fulfill the definition under Section 88 of the Inland Revenue Ordinance. And any profit or surplus made by an NPM KG will be plowed back to the KG. No dividend or benefits or interest will be paid to the investor or the shareholders. Yes. We understand that there won't be any bonus or dividend paid to shareholders, but they can do a lot of things with the profits they make. Some may spend the money on duty visits or overseas visits, so on and so forth. So what is our objective? Are we trying to lessen the burden of low-income parents? Because the tuition fees may seem low, but there are other related expenses to be paid by parents. So how do you decide what KGs should receive assistance? We start from the mode of operation of a KG. For instance, to provide quality KG education, what should be the teacher-student ratio and also expenses arising from activities relevant to the teaching activities.
But for others, other components such as quizzes or interest classes or outings, they will not be subsidized. But it's non-profit making in nature as well. Well, but that shouldn't be under a kindergarten. Say if there's a piano lesson offered, we don't think that all kindergarten people should learn how to play the piano. All right, it's simple. They're so-called aristocratic type of kindergarten education, and the school fee charge is more than $100,000. Are you going to provide subsidy to these KGs? Well, I can't answer this question now. It would depend on the final recommendations from the committee. Say, if it's a profit-making kindergarten, then we need to consider more factors. If it's run like a business, then the question is whether the government should provide a subsidy, and if so, how. We have to consider these questions. Can we get some statistics of profit-making and non-profit-making kindergartens? Mr. Wong Kok-heng has also asked for some statistics. Well, Mr. Wong is not here. Apart from international schools, we don't have school campuses shared by primary schools and kindergartens. Mr. Christopher Chung, I want to talk about pay. Well, we're still on premises-related issues. All right, I would wait. As things stand, I think we know we are not starting from scratch. Some kindergartens are in government-owned premises in public housing estates. It's still easier to know the rental pay. Some kindergartens are operated in private premises. Do you have an objective, and that is you are willing to move these kindergartens to government-owned premises within a reasonable span of time? And some organizations have raised this point. You want to set a ceiling. You don't want to make the subsidy free of any conditions, and you cannot pay whatever the kindergarten pays in the private market. That's understood. That's understandable. Are you going to provide more tiers of subsidy? And I don't know the exact amounts. Some may have tried very hard to find alternative premises, but have failed, and they have to ask the parents to pay school fees so as to pay the rent. So are you going to take into account different factors like these? And are you going to provide more tiers of subsidy? Do you have an objective to start with? Well, the objective, of course, is in the long run, we want to provide more premises for kindergartens. If I can increase supply, then they have a choice. They can choose to move to premises provided by the government or not. Let's take the case of Kowloon Tong. In the heart of Kowloon Tong, there are no premises from the public sector. There's no public housing estate. So maybe a kindergarten there will have to move to Kowloon City if they want to choose government premises. That's up to them. That's for them to choose. But in the long term, we would like to make sure that there is a choice for kindergartens as regards whether they should be relocated to government premises. It's more difficult to set a timetable for achieving this because there's a lot would depend on the demand and supply of housing. Are we going to provide more tiers of subsidy? Well, it's for the committee to consider. Well, I understand your point, Madam Chair, that there may be variations in different districts. As for historical reasons, why they want to go to be located in certain districts, well, that's a more difficult consideration. We'll have to draw a line somewhere. Maybe in the future we can provide different tiers of subsidy. All right, you have been saying that you want to increase the supply of premises. When this is finally implemented, you should set an objective, even though it may take 8 to 10 years to realize. You should at least provide government premises for non-profit making kindergartens. Well, when we introduced whole-day schooling for primary schools, it was difficult, but if you set yourself a target and an objective, you can achieve it over time, gradually. I think this is crucial for implementing the 15-year free education system. I know you cannot achieve it in the short term because we don't start from a blank sheet of paper. But in the long term, you should make sure that kindergartens will have access to government premises as a matter of choice. So please consider this. And if we consider now as something in the transitional period, I know the rentals fluctuate or deviate from district to district. And if it's difficult for kindergartens to cope, that means the burden is passed on to parents. For the second round, we have 5 members who would like to speak, me included. Let's finish this item before we move on to manpower. I would propose that everyone speaks for up to 3 minutes. Mr. Zhang Guoqu. I have a wish list for certain papers. Can you give us some information? Kindergartens operated by NGOs in private premises, public rental housing, and also profit-making kindergartens in different types of premises. And also, please tell us the breakdown rental levels of the different categories. The Undersecretary has asked us to refer to the committee's report. The report has yet to be published. When will the report be available? And after that's make public, how much time is allowed for public consultation? And I want to refer to a previous issue. If we use a 3-hour session as a unit, if we say a session is 3 hours, if it's a 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon, are we going to multiply the subsidy by 2? And with a long whole day, say for 3-hour sessions a day, are we going to multiply the level by 3? We'll try to dig out the information. We may have some of the information asked, but may or may not. We may or may not be able to provide all the information required. We try to do our best. The committee aims to submit its report in May. Let's say it's the end of May. What follows is a discussion in our community. The committee will make use of the 1 hour or so ahead to engage the stakeholders They will try to explain the contents of the future report and also to listen to views of stakeholders. I would participate in the process of collection of opinion and comments. Usually enrollment starts a year before actual intake. The process for this year seems to work like this. If the report is available in May, and then we need to have some internal discussion, then we'll be able to tell people when the enrollment for 2016 starts and the actual pupil intake will be taking place in 2017. You are going to consult the sector. So is it going to be public consultation? What about the role of the legislators here? It's a matter of concern to many people. Are you going to do public consultation? Undersecretary, for this subcommittee, there will be opportunities to communicate with members. I believe the committee will ask us to come back to this subcommittee in June after the submission of the report in May, and then we can have a discussion on the recommendations. And then what follows is to listen to the public and also LegCo members. But we may not have time for a comprehensive, formal public consultation. Because if we need to draft a document and then collect public opinion for a few months and before we come down with a decision, that would delay the process. Well, this is not an issue that would only affect the kindergarten sector and the bureau. Parents and the community at large will be affected. You cannot say that there's no public consultation is needed. Of course, we welcome public comments in the process. Deputy Chairman, Madam Chair, I want to follow up a point raised by Mr. Cheung Kok Chu. I think it's an important issue for such an important policy. We have spent 2 to 3 years. I can't remember exactly the time we have taken. We have taken so much time to have internal deliberations and recommendations, and there must be public consultation. There's no reason why we do not do any consultation. Although you say, Undersecretary, you say public views are welcome. Even the kindergarten sector has been kept in the dark for a long time, and now we only see some inkling of what is going on. So, Undersecretary, please give us a promise that you are going to do a public consultation exercise. And if you cannot do this now, perhaps you should relay our request, a strong request to the Bureau. Well, I can consider this, certainly I can consider this, but we just want to launch it as quickly as we can, because if we look at the time required for public consultation exercise, adopting the usual approach, a lot of time will be spent on it. So perhaps we can try some innovative ways to collect public opinion. Deputy Chairman. Well, it's important that we have a public consultation. In paragraph 10 of the paper, you want to increase more the tiers. That would mean that the parents may have to pick up the tab for any shortfall. So school fees may be even higher than what they are now. You said that the subsidy of $140,000 is a case related to kindergarten in private premises. Will the kindergarten be allowed to pocket the rent, or is it just market rent? And if the cost is to be shared by dozens of parents, it can be a very high amount. Do you really want to increase the different tiers, more tiers of rental subsidy? If you do this, then you are going to adopt it for the long term instead of providing premises for kindergartens. Provision of premises will not be taking the place of providing rental subsidy. You must set a longer vision and also details on how to cope with the situation in the meantime. I have concerns about the proposed approach.
Can I defer to the Deputy Secretary? Let me clarify one concept. The current rent reimbursement scheme has one important consideration, and that is whether there is demand in that district. To implement a free KG education, we may remove the requirement of having proven demand in the district, because many KGs might have joined our free KG education scheme, but the fill-up rate may not be very high. Because we're using government money, we need a mechanism to ensure that the subsidy is related to the fill-up rate. And therefore, the committee is considering more tiers of rental subsidy according to different fill-up rates. And we have used one district to illustrate our point. For the KG receiving a very high level of rent reimbursement is because the fill-up rate is very high. So if we just compare the rent, it may not give you the full picture, as pointed out by a member just now, and we do agree with this point. But the reality is the size of the KG receiving the very high level of rent reimbursement is very different from the one receiving a lower level of reimbursement. We have to address this problem. If we do not resolve this problem, it may not be feasible for us to implement free KG education. Dr. Kenneth Chen. Madam Chair, we have been discussing this for an hour, and yet I don't think we have get to the crux of the matter. To have 15 years of free KG education, it is a change in nature rather than a change in extent. So there must be very clear commitment and undertaking from the part of the administration, and the committee should help the committee to decide whether the current mode of subsidy is outdated. And to have 15 years of free education, the government should be more heavily involved. So we should consider the planning standard for the number of whole day and half day KG places. And according to the planning department, it is the EDs, it is the Education Bureau that should take the initiative. Now, we don't know what the government is thinking about, what is meant by in the long term there should be sufficient premises to provide the number of places required in a particular place according to the planning standards. So this is the overriding principle. Rather, we still talk about rental subsidy. We're still using old mentality, trying to improve the system. And then the DS talks about whether it is feasible and practicable. And in my first round, I asked the Undersecretary this. You must have some rational planning first. If after that we know that the number of premises required, and then we have an idea the resources required for site identification, construction or renovation, all right. If in the interim less than $100 million is needed for rent subsidy, then the government should provide this subsidy. And meanwhile, if you don't want to subsidize the market or private developers or any organization for too long, you should try to provide the premises required according to your planning standards as soon as possible. Otherwise, we are not talking about a change in the nature, but just a tinkering or fine-tuning with the current situation. Yes, I do agree that in the long term, we should consider what we have to do in the long term. Now, if you look at footnote 1, we're saying that we should provide 370 half-day and 250 full-day places for every 1,000 children in the age group of 3 to under 6. And the question is, if we are talking about 1,000 children, should it be 1,000? And whether the ratio between full day and half day should be changed. Well, as I said, the committee is considering this change due to change in need. And whether instead of 20 places short, we should provide 20 places over to avoid competition. Well, this is also about rational utilization of resources. No, I'm not talking about providing more than 1,000 places. I am talking about a review of the places requirement for half-day, whole day, and long whole day KGs. You do that review first to be rational. Yes, as I said, it's mentioned in the paper that the current ratio between half-day and full-day places is 730 to 250. Should that be changed? This is one of the issues to be considered. And if this is changed in the planning standards, then the other changes will follow. Mr. Abraham Sheikh speaking for the first time. You can have 5 minutes. There's no need, Madam Chair, because I was listening upstairs. Now, what you're proposing is very good for education in Hong Kong, but I fail to see a time frame. You talk about doing it ASAP, and there won't be any public consultation. Now, if the policy is good, why worry about public consultation? You want to implement it ASAP, but if there are some shortcomings in it, then it may turn out to be a bad policy. If you believe that your policy can support your 15 years of free education, then you should consult the public on the proposals as soon as possible. What you are talking about is how you're going to improve what you have now. Why do you have to fear? Why are you so worried about public consultation? You should do it as soon as possible. I'll give you more time to answer, to explain. Yes, we've heard members' views. We'll go back and think about them. Yes. Well, the kind of public consultation I'm thinking about is to follow our usual practice: a consultation document, 2 to 3 months of public consultation, and then a report after we've compiled all the views, and that would take several months, and that would delay the implementation. We will certainly have channels to receive views from the sector, and we welcome views from the public, and that can be invited online. If members think that we should have a formal public consultation, we can consider it and see what will be the implications to our implementation date. Thank you. Mrs. Regina Yip, she's left. All right, myself, a second round. I think what you said was very realistic. School accommodation has everything to do with quality of education. So I'd like to know whether the design or the requirements are different for half-day, full-day, and long whole-day KG education, because we said a number of times that in Hong Kong we have a great demand for labor, and we would like to release the working potential of women. So how will the school premises be designed to suit different needs of half-day and full-day and long whole-day education, and will the government be responsible for the expenses? For half-day and full-day education, I think the difference is the number of places. Now, if it is half-day KG, the number of places can more than double. Now, if we are to provide more full-day places, then we may need one more school KG site in the same district, or the site may have to be bigger. So future land use planning will reflect the change. And as for regional resource centers, we don't have any confirmed idea on how they're going to operate. The preliminary thinking is to have a regional resource center in each district, so that for KGs that have any shortage in facilities or anything, it can use the regional resource center, and it may be operated by an NGO, and the regional resource center in different districts may be different. Some may just provide more teaching resources. Some may provide more space. To respond to your first question, or to your first answer, will the accommodation be very different? Well, you know, for long whole-day KGs or whole-day KGs, the kids will have to take afternoon naps. So I think there is some implications on the space requirement. So it won't be just a difference in a number of places provided. If in the transitional period you have regional resource centers to help aged KGs have an additional charge that is good, and please give us details in your report. The Deputy Chairman would like to ask one more question, and then we will go to the paper on teacher qualification.
I have one further question about paragraph 12, quality of premises. Is that the government might explore increasing the indoor area for each child? Well, it's the word might, so it's really flexible here. And also, you want to increase the indoor area for each child so as to secure a more spacious environment for children's physical activities and learning. But outdoor area is also important, so you need to consider both. And it also leads to another question of facilities of kindergartens. Are you going to do it comprehensively, and what facilities should be provided by kindergarten? How much space is required? And you should also cover both indoor and outdoor areas. So that's the first question. Or maybe I should get an answer for the first question. We mentioned indoor area. It's because of the actual environment in the kindergarten. Of course, we like kindergartens to provide outdoor areas for playing and for learning. But in Hong Kong, realistically speaking, many kindergartens do not have any outdoor area. Therefore, under the code, a kindergarten has to provide some indoor area for physical activities. If there's no outdoor area, we use the term indoor area because it is applicable to all kindergartens. And Deputy Secretary may wish to supplement. Deputy Secretary, we have commissioned a consultant to look at the long-term vision on facilities. We mustn't lose sight of the current situation. Many of them are operating on private premises, and they're doing well. It's a long road from now to where our vision would lead us. We may want to stipulate that every kindergarten should have spacious outdoor areas and spacious indoor areas. If we have regional resource centers, then kindergartens suffering from shortage of space, they may be in commercial buildings, they may be able to use the resource centers for different types of learning activities. All right, members have offered many comments on this paper. I hope when you receive the report from the committee, you would come back to listen to members, and also you should consult the public on the recommendations. We now move on to the next item, issues related to manpower requirement, salary, and teacher professionalism. Is paper CB4 627 14 15 (02). Over to the Undersecretary for an introduction. With regard to manpower requirements, salary, and teacher professionalism, the committee is of the view that the ratio of 1 to 15 should be improved, and there should be more teachers to take care of different needs of pupils, and the teachers should be allowed more room for professional development, and there should be a career ladder for kindergarten teachers to retain kindergarten teachers. As for the proposal of a staff salary scale, the committee would give further advice. And there should also be continuation education and qualification upgrading for kindergarten teachers and principals. That's all for my introduction, Madam Chair. Mr. Wong Kok Heng. I want to know more about the statistics. It said that the salary for full-time kindergarten teachers range from 8,900 to over 70,500. The average was about 18,800. These figures look good, but you have also included in the calculation kindergarten principals. So the average salary does not really reflect the salary level of full-time kindergarten teachers. Can you please exclude principals and vice principals in the calculation, and also provide breakdowns in accordance with teaching experience? Under 3 years, 4 to 7, 7 to 10, and then over 10 years. And if you do this, the statistics will be easier to understand and informative. And then we can set the career development ladder in a more realistic way. So that's the first question. Second, for non-teaching staff, such as assistants, there are quite a few in kindergartens who are not teachers, but for them you have set no guidance, no recommendations. Shouldn't you come up with some recommendations for these non-teaching staff? For statistics in paragraph 4, we have not covered principals, that is to say 8,900, 70,500, and 18,800. All those figures are related to kindergarten teachers only. As for non-teaching staff, the consultant has conducted a study, but we have got no information so far, and we have no breakdown figures for kindergarten teachers with different years of service. Are they going to be available in a future report? I'm not sure. I know the consultant conducted a questionnaire surveys and market research on comparative salary levels based on working experience. Have they asked each and every kindergarten teacher or individual kindergarten teachers on the salary they receive? I'm not sure. But recommendations will be made to the committee on how to set a salary scale for kindergarten teachers. And of course, in this process, working experience will be a factor. You may not be able to reflect the true situation if working experience is not accounted for. Whereas because it's a big difference between 8,000 something and 70,000 something. So please ask the consultant to provide a breakdown. I make some suggestions: 1 to 3 years, 4 to 7 years, and 7 to 9 years, and so on and so forth. That's just a suggestion, but we need to have breakdown salary levels, because there's a big difference for teachers with 2 to 3 years experience compared with those with 7 to 9 years. We have learned about the suggestion that we should reflect experience in the salary scale. when we receive the recommendations from the committee, we believe there will be some flexibility, so that teachers with different experience will receive salary that reflects their experience. How about non-teaching staff? We don't have a detailed guideline. We will consider doing this for non-teaching staff in the future. For the second round, Dr. Kenneth Chen, I think it's not a mature opportunity. It's not the opportune time to discuss this. The committee has engaged a consultancy study into these matters. The paper is not available, and we don't know how to proceed with this. Some time ago, in the past, there were the packing of a salary scale with government pay scales, and then it was unpacked. And now the kindergarten teachers do not have any packed salary. They can just what kindergarten teachers can do will be job hoppings. And we have asked for the upgrading of kindergarten teacher qualification enhancement, but they don't get what their new qualifications warrants. So it's important that we should take this current exercise to rectify past mistakes. Mrs. Moses Jiang did similar things with the Baptist U when he was chairman of the council, and that was the unpacking exercise, and there was a consultancy study, and every person working for the university will have a job description, and then the comparison was made that would be the salary level, and then a scale was devised. For this particular grade, he should be paid within this range, but at what point within that range is flexible? But there are many questions arising from this current discussion. We don't know whether you have done what I've just said. We're just speculating. I just want to give you some warning in advance. I believe what they are thinking will be very different from what the sector expects. And we still have the crisis arising from the lump sum grant system. Even with the qualification framework, and you have a salary packed with qualifications, but the subsidy will be capped at a certain level. And then when people move up the salary scale, you are somewhat capped because of the funding level. The government must promise that sufficient resources will be provided to retain the talent needed for the sector. Otherwise, the implementation will be very unsatisfactory. For the ratio of 1 to 15, and even if you discount the principle in the future, it may seem a better mechanism, but then there will be newer requirements, because there will be more parents requiring long whole day kindergarten service. Then it's not just a question of teacher to pupil ratio, but the functions of kindergartens. And also there may be the need to do more in special education. So the improvement to the 1 to 15 ratio, discounting principles, one may not be able to achieve the objectives under the 15 years of free education proposal.
All right, I note Dr. Kenneth Chen's views, but as said by Dr. Chen, if the report is available when government's recommendation on the salary structure is available, we may be able to discuss more. But I think it will be. So I think whether it should be one similar to government type salary structure, or should retain flexibility, and which one is better for the development of the sector. I am willing to listen to members' views. And the ratio of 1 to 10, we will try to improve the ratio. Well, in the light of members' comments, we'll improve the ratio. Regarding SEN, we will provide more teacher training and professional support. And of course, we need the cooperation of SWD in special education because they have the expertise. That's more or less what I have in response. Mr. John Kwok Chu. Thank you, Chairman. The ratio of 1 to 15. And I've also got information saying that the ratio is 1 to 13. I don't know which one to trust. According to NGOs, they already achieved the ratio of 1 to 15, excluding the principal. Para 2 of your paper says that the current standard teacher-to-student ratio in KG is 1 to 15, including the principal. So which party should we trust? And then you talk about the standard staffing structure in a standard KG, but you have not told us the standards that's under para 11. And for a large scale KG, there should be a vice principal. So how do you define a large scale KG? I believe the staff structure is proposed here on the basis of a 3-hour operation. I think you won't adopt the same standard for a 5-hour or 9-hour operation. Now, if it is a 6-hour operation, a whole day education, will you multiply it by 2? And if it is a long whole day KG, will you multiply the staff structure by 3? Otherwise, I think you are encouraging people to work in a half-day KG as a result. And this goes against our population policy, because the policy is to unleash the workforce of parents so that both parents can work. But if the mainstay is 3-hour KG education, then one parent will have to stay home to look after his or her kid, and this is against your population policy. Under Secretary, the current requirement is 1 to 15, including the principal. This is the requirement of the Education Bureau. When it comes to different schools, no, I beg your pardon. Now, if this ratio is 1 to 15, then future calculation will be on the basis of 1 to 15. I'm afraid the KGs with a ratio of 1 to 13 will have to sack staff. You have to understand that at least half of the KGs have a ratio of 1 to 13. And why have you gone for the standard of 1 to 15 here? Yes, why 1 to 15, and what is the current ratio for KGs in Hong Kong? I was about to get to that. 1 to 15 is the basic requirement for KGs, the minimum requirement. I understand that different KGs have different operation. For some reasons, they may see the need to improve the ratio. and sometimes they may have difficulties in student admission, and therefore the ratio is a higher one. But the requirement from us is 1 to 15, including the principal. So we'll first read the committee's report and recommendations, and we'll also consider the actual circumstances in KGs before we make a decision. But it is impossible for us to say here that we will go for the current practice of schools, but because some schools have a better ratio than 1 to 13, therefore, because we're talking about government funding, we must have some consistency. Now, the ratio set as 1 to 15. We hope to do better in the future. If for whatever reasons a KG has gone for a better ratio, for instance, it prefers more small group teaching and with a better ratio, this is what we call enhanced service, and the extra cost will have to be borne by the parents. So we'll first have the recommendations from the committee first, and then we'll consider the implications to different KGs. Deputy Chairman, yes, I'd like to follow up on the question of the ratio of 1 to 15. I think at most one teacher will look after 15 students in a KG, and the principal doesn't have to teach. So this is no different from the preferred ratio by the committee. So may I ask if there is no improvement in this regard? Yes, the standard is 1 to 15, including the principal. If you have 300 students, it's easier to do the calculation. You should have 20 students, one of which is the principal. So if we exclude the principal in the future, then it will be the principal plus 20 teachers. So there is improvement. Deputy Chairman. So there should be at least one teacher for 15 students. If the principal is included, then at any one time, or everyone in the school has to teach, including a teacher, in order to suit this ratio. No one KG would do this. So I think for KGs, they already exclude the principal. According to the Undersecretary, the current ratio is rather harsh. So the improvement is not any real improvements, because even existing KGs are not doing this. And para 15. Many people, including legislators, propose a clear salary pay scale for KG teachers, so that there can be a clear remuneration for teachers, and the package should not be harsh. And 15 says, paragraph 15 says, that this is related to the funding mode for aided schools, and therefore this thing cannot be isolated in implementation. But as far back as 1999 to 2006, I don't know whether I've got the dates right, there was really a very clear pay structure. So it was possible in the past. How come you say nowadays that it's not possible to implement this as a standalone measure? So I'd like to see a clarification of paragraph 15. Well, reverting to the old arrangement, well, there was subsidy to KG, but it was not free KG education. So if the government is to provide free KG education, the government must use public resources appropriately. Just like primary schools. We will allocate students to classes as far as possible, and then the number of teachers will depend on the number of classes. Well, when in primary and secondary schools classes have to be cut, then it will also happen to KGs if we apply the same approach. We're not saying which one is better, but we just want to point out in paragraph 15 that if we are to have a pay scale as suggested, then other things would follow, such as the allocation of students. So I cannot just take out the pay scale for implementation, ignoring other practices. And if there is time, may I invite the DS to clearly explain what it was like in the past. This ratio of 1 to 15, we are not saying that in the classroom the ratio should be 1 to 15 according to our education bylaws. We adopt a class concept. A class can have up to 20 to 30 students. And because of the voucher system, we're saying that for every 15 students, there should be a qualified teacher, one who has completed a course on Certificate in Early Childhood Education, CECE. So for every 15 students, there should be one CECE qualified teacher. There are teachers who are just QKT, qualified kindergarten teacher. We will still accept that. As Mr. Zhang said, in some KGs, they have one teacher to every 13 students. And if you look at PM sessions, the ratio is even better. I think you can understand the reason, because there are fewer students in PM sessions usually. So there's the discrepancy between the requirement and the actual circumstances. So isn't it what I said, one teacher for every 15 students? Yes, okay. All right. Myself speaking for the first time. I'd like to ask a question on paragraph 4 of your paper, the same question asked by Mr. Wong Kwok-Hui. You said that according to the annual teacher survey conducted in September 2014, the monthly salaries of teachers working full-time in KGs under PEVs ranged from about $8,900 to $17,500, and the average salary of teachers was about $18,800. I think at another meeting, there was another survey on teachers' pay. We asked for more details, and you said that couldn't be feasible. I fail to understand why, because such information is very meaningful and important to our discussion. It is impossible that you have not surveyed their years of service as well, because the range is too big, 8,900 to 70,500, and then you gave us an average without telling us the years of service. And I don't know whether the recommendations by the consultant will be just the same as your view.
They may be looking at the salary paid by companies for similar jobs. So please consider providing, please consider to provide additional information. We'll see what we have got from what I've given to understand. We have some information about experience of teachers and salaries of teachers. We may not have a matching data. We have data on average salary and also average experience, but we may or may not be able to come up with a table showing the average salary of teacher of a certain number of years of experience. You may have the raw data, but it's just that you may need time to compile the statistics. I think it's important that we get hold of such information in order to understand the recommendations of the consultant. Ms. Sithold, for the first round. Thank you, Madam Chair. Kindergarten education in Hong Kong is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Because when the child wants to get admitted to primary one and he has no pre-primary education, it's difficult to adapt. Of course, through the school allocation system, he will still get a place. But in Hong Kong, parents regard kindergarten education as a must. Since this is a must, you must provide something basic, something that meets certain requirements, and the operators of kindergartens are expected to comply. You cannot say that for some kindergartens they are there to train elites. For some, they are operating like a nursery. There's the range of salary is wide, from 8,000 something to 70,000 plus. There are kindergartens with teachers with high qualifications, for example, even doctorate degree holders. Well, such teachers should get such high pay. But there are district kindergartens which are really doing child care for half of the time. If we say that before admission to primary one, all children should get some basic education, therefore we should set for ourselves some really basic requirements, and we need to ask for certain teachers' qualifications supported by a pay scale. It's just like the schools. There are aided schools, there are DSS schools. Well, you should allow the kindergartens to have access to a basic level of subsidy, and if there's a shortfall, maybe parents can pay for the top-up. It's important, it's instrumental that we have a salary scale and qualification requirements. Otherwise, there will be a wide range of discrepancy in terms of teachers' education and pay, and that's not very fair to the children. You should tell us that for teachers holding different qualifications, such as certificate of education, bachelor's degrees, what kind of pay range, average salary range do they have? And then you have to tell people whether you regard kindergarten education a necessity. Primary schools may want to admit P1 students with some pre-primary education and training, and many parents are busy and they need child care as well. The government should come up with a clear policy statement, and the statement should be applied to primary 1 enrollment. And there are experienced educators saying that you should not send your children to kindergartens. They should be allowed to play at home, or even when they go to a kindergarten, they should just be allowed to play. But if, on the other hand, these primary schools ask for a lot of language education, for example, to spell difficult words like chimpanzee, then there's a mismatch. And the Education Bureau should try to change parents' understanding of what kindergarten education is about, so that they can really choose what is right for the children. Well, I agree very much with the ideas propounded by Ms. Sid Ho. The committee is looking into the articulation between kindergarten and primary education. We'll wait and see if the committee has got anything to recommend in the report. As for the salary scale of teachers and the career development ladder, and whether we can retain qualified kindergartens in the teaching staff, and whether we should have more flexibility, or we should have very detailed requirements on the points, on the advancement to the next point, and whether we should give the flexibility to the kindergarten. I think that's one of the points we want to raise for discussion in our paper. But the salary must be sufficient on the whole. I'm not talking about individual cases. The salary must be sufficient to retain kindergarten teachers in this sector. It said that with the qualification framework, then of salary scale, then there may be the need to implement full-scale regulation. I think every kindergarten must at least got one well-qualified kindergarten teachers, so that he can lead the team in professional development in the kindergarten. Time's up for you, Ms. Ho. 2 more members would like to speak on this paper. Actually, some members have asked for additional information. Do we want to leave the issues to the next occasion? Are you referring to the agenda item we are discussing? Yes. Any more supplementary information? If not, then I'll give the remaining 5 minutes to the 2 members. 2 minutes each. Under Secretary, you haven't answered some of my questions. Please do so in writing after the meeting. I want to share some ideas with the Undersecretary. I'm from the social welfare sector. I've witnessed the lump sum grants system for 10 years. So at first, a lot of NGOs unpack their salary scales, and on the whole, quality has suffered. And now there's a trend to repack the pay scales, but we haven't gone back to what we were previously. If you say we leave the matter to individual kindergartens, I think you should take a look at what happened to my sector in the past 10 odd years. I can speak for 10 hours if I have time. I will be very disappointed if you say there will be no public consultation. The kindergarten sector may react very strongly to this. So instead of facing that risk, please do proper consultation. I'd rather have the system implemented a year later. Once the document is out, you would have announced the government's intention, and the discussion will be open. If you just talk to the stakeholders, it's going to be internal deliberations, and I don't know who have proposed what. Deputy Chairman, if it's a lump sum grant system, or if you give the kindergarten a salary range and a lot of flexibility, then the people may query, what's the purpose of the flexibility? If the flexibility is there so that the salary can be kept lower, and the salary would be below the reasonable level for a long time, then the problems faced by the social welfare sector, as mentioned by Mr. Jiang Gokchi, would come to pass. You have to explain what you are proposing and why to the sector. What we want to see is that in terms of salary, there will be a guarantee that all practitioners would get dignity as reflected by the salary. The salary should reflect the education qualification, the working experience, and it's also linked to inflation. All these should have been covered by the pre-primary education voucher scheme a few years ago. But that might be the case, but not in recent years. We are very disappointed. What is also disappointing is what we can see in paragraph 17. The committee is of the initial view that the government can formulate a continuous professional development policy for the sector. So it's our initial view that there should be a policy. It doesn't say that there should be a policy, and the policy should talk about requiring all teachers to hold degrees and so on and so forth. And also the qualifications should be reflected by the salary scale. In the past 2 years, we have been asking for upgrading of kindergarten education through the upgrading of teachers' qualification. There is no clear vision or clear analysis here. Under Secretary, first of all, we use the word initial because the committee's report is not yet published, so we can only use initial. Can we not take out the initial, the word initial? The report is not yet out, so I cannot really take out the word initial. Well, if we know what the recommendations are, we may consider this. We are not saying that there should be flexibility for salary only, because there is a body of opinion that the kindergarten education is diversified and it enjoys flexibility, and that's why we say that salary should also be flexible. And now the idea is to provide a range with the maximum and the minimum within a range. Would everyone enter at the minimum, and then there should be a promotion for points up the scale. It's not. Well, there's still room to discuss whether the flexibility will mean that they can pay their teachers whatever they like.
As regards public consultation, we have no intention to evade consulting the public. We welcome views from the public. It's just that we have to see how public consultation would not be in the way of implementing our measures. But I do agree with Mr. Zhang Guokqu that if we do not consult the public properly, it may be counterproductive. Yes, we have spent a lot of time on this paper. I hope that extra information can be provided to us to assist our discussion. If not, we will continue with our meetings according to our set plan. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.